The unprecedented situation of the last 2 years clearly drove home the need to adapt to these challenging and transformative times. And digitization is the key to transforming small businesses for a world that's contactless and technology driven. So now, we have a panel of industry experts discussing how embracing digitization is the way to go for offline retail. And to introduce this illustrious panel, I would like to invite our panel moderator, Mr. Vivek Somareddy, Director, Fulfillment Channels, Amazon India.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today on day one of Amazon Smbhav 2022. I am Vivek Somareddy from Amazon. As part of my role here, I meet and speak with a number of entrepreneurs and business owners from all parts of India about how they can grow their business using technology, challenges they are facing, and a lot more. One of the most common points in these conversations is digitization. With the world around us becoming more and more digital, business owners of all sizes, from a local store in Kanpur, a home entrepreneur in Madurai, to a large retail chain in Indore, are talking about the benefits that internet, technology adoption, and digitization can enable for them. For example, how can digital payments help? How can they leverage technology to manage inventory and other store operations? For some, there's also some level of hesitancy, or if I may say, unfamiliarity, which leads to inadequate trust. Given, however, there is enough evidence to show how technology and digitization are key to enable the next phase of retail growth, it is imperative that we are able to bring this message to various small retailers and other SMBs. A recent NASSCOM report suggests that the retail market will grow by about 700 billion to $1.5 trillion by 2030. And online plus offline enabled sales would account for over 90% of this addition to the market. This reflects in the rapid adoption of digital technologies by local kirana stores, big retail chains, and other entrepreneurs. To discuss more on this, I'm excited to bring you a distinguished panel for an engaging conversation of how digitization can be a game changer for the growth of small local stores and the overall retail sectors in India. I'd first like to welcome Mr. T. Koshy, CEO, Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC for short. Mr. Anil Bhardwaj, Secretary General, Federation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, or FISME. Mr. Vinod Nambiar, Managing Director of More Retail Private Limited. Ms. Divya Arora, Director, Kesar Sweets. And Mr. Kedar Lele, Executive Director, Customer Development, Hindustan Unilever Limited. Thank you all. Let's just jump straight in. My first question is for you, Anilji. FISME works with a large number of small businesses, including local stores. Can you please share a perspective on how e-commerce and digitization overall aided the sector in the challenging times during the last couple of years in sustaining their businesses?
Thanks for this opportunity. I think it has been a matter of rediscovery about their own strengths, first of all, during the period of COVID particularly, that MSMEs and entrepreneurs who are working from in a very informal setting suddenly found that how they can leverage technology and reach out to a very large number of their buyers and customers without much of additional costs. And the ecosystem that has been built around over the years in e-commerce in India has made their life extremely easy, so to say. So it's now more of a question of mindset and also a little bit of preparation, because some amount of readiness is required and one could jump on the bandwagon and reap the benefits that e-commerce offers to almost all segments of micro, small and medium enterprises.
Thank you, Anilji. I think the point about with limited cost was a very important point. Coming to you, Mr. Nambiar, you have a ringside view of what digitization means for physical retail. What are some of the challenges or friction points in the process?
I think as the boundaries of commerce and social media start to blur, it is, I think the first big challenge really is capability of people. who work in an offline world and transition into what I called an omni-channel world. So capability of people. The second big friction point is of adapting to technology. Technology advancements are rapid and quite honestly scare a lot of people. I mean, whether we're talking about shopper path to purchase, whether we're talking about inventory management, supply chain solutions, I think adapting to the technology and keeping pace with that technology is a real friction point. The third is, I think, learning about very rapid and evolving customer expectations. Customers today have choice, whether it's category choices, assortment choices, speed choices, fulfillment choices. So, retailers like us have to really learn how to adapt to those choices and make that work. A very big change and friction point is price discovery. Today, 5 years ago, there was a very different process of price discovery. Today's price discovery process is transparent and fast. And I think this is a friction point which all retail and all channels have to learn how to adapt. And last but not the least is cost management, which is in a hybrid digital retail world. It is critical for retailers to understand hybrid cost management. And, that is a friction point today because there's duplication of resource and it has to actually become one resource to serve two channels. That's what I think are the key friction points today.
Thank you, Mr. Nambiar. Mr. Koshy, my next question is for you. ONDC is a full tech stack that is expected to bring in the next revolution in retail, especially for small sellers. What are the key focus areas for your team as they work towards this goal?
This is an attempt to bring democratization in the e-commerce so that we can see a large participation of a broader segments of platforms and solution providers coming together and having equal opportunity. And for that purpose, we have provided a framework which allow unbundling of the building blocks of transactions, which could be customer service on one side to seller service on the other side, so logistics and so on and so forth. And for that, and when this unbundling happen, for a seamless transaction and experience for the client, we have provided for interoperability. And all those framework has already been published. And we believe that the large entities who have the technical capabilities would naturally be able to adopt that quite fast pace and become a part of this larger community, just like the UPI changed the payment system in India. But what we are doing, as you pointed out, that we are very we're giving special attention to small and medium enterprises to adopt and be present using this protocol into this network. So our efforts are, a lot focused on that directions in the early stages of our launch, as probably would have heard, that we have done in a very, very small launch of our platform. I can't call it platform, the network, including the central gateway, as well as a number of buyer and seller applications coming together in this in retail and in food side. Where based on this learning and the playbook that we generate, we expect to reach across to a broader cross-section of small and medium enterprises and help them to come on stream, focusing on specialization of what they can do, as well as innovation by this broad cross-section of people and not just few enterprises who are the wherewithal. We think that we'll be able to let loose the imagination and creativity of a broad cross-section of startups to come together and have an equal play in the market. That's a present strategy working on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Koshy. Mr. Lele, bringing you into the conversation, FMCG sector is very dynamic. How do you see the integration of technology helping solve some of the conventional challenges that offline retailers face to keep pace with evolving customer preferences and becoming future ready?
Right. First of all, congratulations to all of you for hosting Smbhav once again. I like the theme of progress or pragati, and that pragati is really visible across the length and breadth of the country. Now, you spoke about Indian Kirana, which in my opinion is today a hotly contested space because new age digital first companies do believe that this large unorganized mass of over 10 million retailers is in dire need of efficiency-led disruption, which may or may not be true, because we have always felt that unorganized is equal to inefficient, is what we have known. Not so in India, in my opinion. However, it is also true that they haven't been effective at all time in terms of anticipating consumer needs or in terms of consumer orientation. So, two things which have rattled them in the past would be one, revenue maximization through assortment selling at optimum pricing. And second would be, how do they keep themselves relevant when consumers shift their shopping preferences from walking into the store to wanting it fulfilled at home? Now, if I were to just give you two quick factors, first is called demand capture, the way I call it, which is ability to attract shoppers to the store and sell at the optimum price to maximize revenue. Now, their catchment is not going to grow. Their catchment is going to remain the same. And hence the idea should be, how do they serve as many needs as possible and optimize that through the indigenous or native knowledge they've had or deployment of technology to anticipate demand. The second one, of course, is how do they fulfill that demand? Because as consumers don't walk into the store anymore, kiranas in the neighborhood have the ability to offer the last mile at the most effective price. And if they develop the ability to do the stock replenishment on time from whichever sources they can, because beyond large companies, they also have now access to wholesale or EB2B companies. If they can stock right, if they can price right, then I think their last mile strength and consumer centricity can keep them relevant going forward. So those are two: demand capture, demand fulfillment.
Thank you. Very well said. Ms. Arora, coming to you, can you tell us about the early days of Kesar Sweets and how your first experiences with e-commerce and digital technologies helped the journey?
Very good afternoon to everyone. Kesar was conceived with a vision to redefine Indian mithai by brilliant time-honored craftsmanship, innovation, and fusion, keeping the ethos of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam at its core. In the startup years, we faced multiple barriers due to the traditional sweet industry's well-established cornerstone in the Indian market. And we braved to poke this bear. Despite the resistances, we were able to entrench ourselves as a non-conventional mithai boutique, backed by a commitment to revolutionize this industry. The initial stint with e-commerce happened around September 2019, just few months before COVID hit. I still remember this hilarious conversation I had with our co-founder, who was trying to calm me down. I'm a creative bug who was struggling to decode this high-tech alien territory. I announced that I've got a driver's license and I feel great about it, but this feels like I'm stepping into a Formula One car race. And definitely this arena doesn't seem to be for faint-hearted. For our employees also, it was not less than a nightmare because most of our team comprises of skilled craftsmen, followed by a few bunch of, sales team. And the hierarchy consists of a handful of admin squad. So as a company, we were expected not only to create high-profile products, but also deliver them to the doorsteps of our customers in the most creative way. Customers were demanding more value and innovation than ever at prices which we had not thought of. Our profitabilities were shrinking. Moreover, the accelerating pace of technological development was leading to a chaotic and a very disheartened environment in my organization. So this is like, talking absolutely from ground as to what was our initial time trying to adapt and sell our products on an e-commerce platform. But we soon realized that transformation was the key that would help us keep going and help us achieve our vision for making Indian sweets omnipresent. So while use of technology and data were once enablers of efficiency and cost cutting, we very clearly recognized that they had become engines of innovation and revenue growth, offering us unprecedented opportunities to develop new products and actually reimagine our business in totality.
Thank you very much. Anil ji, can you tell us from your conversations with small sellers and retailers what kind of skill sets are important for them to tap the e-commerce and digitization opportunity? And what role can different ecosystem players, including the government, play in making the digitization journey simpler for them?
There are several areas where some kind of competency is required if one wants to be a seller through the e-commerce. One is, first of all, is of attitude, because while working on e-commerce, first of all, one should be ready that there would be people who would not like the goods due to one reason or another and would like to return. So ability to factor in the returns, processing orders in time, packaging, and creating a kind of an aha effect for the customer, I think is very much required. I think commitment required in e-commerce is much more than it is in the typical retail business, where our attitude is and we get away with it that आज के जमाने में quality की उम्मीद ना रखें. ऐसा they even put posters like this, but that doesn't work in e-commerce, So the whole ecosystem is such that you have to care the customer needs and you have to fulfill them and you have to fulfill them in time. And there is a reward and punishment system which essentially works and promotes the suppliers to gain better efficiency, to be better customer oriented. And overall, I think the ecosystem has become such that it is improving day by day on all counts, whether it is delivery, whether it is price, whether it is choice. So I think this is very, very important. So attitude, I think, is the most important thing. On the regulatory part, still there are a lot of issues. The most important being that if you are a micro enterprise, woman enterprise, or rural-based enterprise, so one is selling in the retail market, then there is no problem, and there is no mandatory registration required for GST because GST compliances are many. But the moment you want to join e-commerce, you want to sell your goods through e-commerce, you have to mandatorily require to get the GST registration and all the paraphernalia of compliances that come with GST. And it is not really compatible with very small scale of operations that they have. So I think some amount of some amount of uniformity is required both for the e-commerce sellers as well as sellers, retail sellers. And also, I think I would like to comment on this new development called ONDC. This is very, very interesting development. See, through the current initiatives of e-commerce by private sector driven e-commerce, there are many areas which have been left behind because they might not be offering initial growth that companies might look for, or they may not be very feasible or economically very attractive. But I see that ONDC actually would fulfill those gaps that exist today, particularly, for example, in the B2B space, very small B2B chains, closed B2B chains, and B2B communities would come and take advantage of this new initiative. And FISMA looks forward to this new development with great, welcoming attitude, and would like to take advantage of that.
Thank you, Anil ji. I think very well said, especially the focus on customer experience, the close grouping with reward and penalty systems, and how ONDC is going to play a big part into the future with respect to all those unserved catchment areas. Mr. Nambiar, coming back to you, I want to get a perspective on the whole online plus offline space. How do you see them complementing each other? I mean, digitization is just more than selling online. It can bring efficiencies across the value chain, from your perspective, how can offline retailers leverage technology to make all aspects of store operations geared towards providing a superlative customer experience?
Well said, Vivek. I think, 3 years ago, most offline retailers were doing fledgling online businesses. And one thing that has happened over the last 2 years is an absolute acceleration of a shopper habit, which is to what I believe do omni-channel shopping. COVID is sort of, I think, brought that habit forward by a decade, according to me, because of all the waves we've had. And there are three areas of synergy that I see for us as retailers. The first, according to me, is capital synergy, which is we used to have offline stores which catered to walk-in customers. Today, either partnering large online retailers or running our own app, we are creating the second channel of shopping with the same capital on the ground and the same inventory. So tremendous capital synergy, right? And the second synergy, I think, is supply chain. It is very critical that we are now upstreaming supply chain and able to do, from multiple parts of our supply chain, we're able to offer shoppers a wide variety. So from our distribution centers, we offer larger assortments for online shopping. From our stores, our larger hypermarkets, we offer a large assortment. From our neighborhood stores, we offer a smaller assortment. So this coming together of offline and online retail is given the shopper a choice between assortment and time. I mean, you see a lot of the advertising today for quick deliveries, but I think this is just a question of time before shoppers start to choose between time and assortment. And so that is the second synergy that has happened. The third is the drive that technology has, or the role that technology has to drive synergy, whether it is data transparency, data analysis. We are viewing the shopper as one entity today. We don't think of her as an online shopper or an offline shopper. We think of her as a shopper who shops in multiple channels. And data has brought this transparency to us, which offers tremendous personalization to a shopper. So I think consumer outcome of all this is I can personalize your experience, and that synergy is tremendously forward-looking. And I think this is going to be a very exciting decade that's coming our way in the next 5, 7, 10 years.
Absolutely agree. You touched about in your previous comment with respect to how there is a little bit of inefficiency taking both online and offline, and people are figuring out that they need to staff both or run both in parallel. Now it's coming to a point where you're looking at leveraging technology, capital, all commonly to bring that efficiency in place. Ms. Arora, two questions built into one. As an entrepreneur yourself, how easy or difficult is it today compared to, let's say, 10 years ago, if we talk about expanding one's business beyond the immediate vicinity, beyond footfalls at your store and address customers across India or even globally? And in your own digitization journey, what kind of challenges did you have to face? Did you have to overcome in your operations? What kind of upskilling and reskilling measures did you have to take for yourself and your team?
If I look at the business now, it looks, the possibilities look absolutely infinite. Is when we began in 2013, our entire thought process of expansion was majorly based on brick mortar model, and we thought this is how we'll franchise and we'll begin and we'll open stores. But I think 2019-20 changed a lot of it, and we've changed our business model probably 5 times. That means, to be very honest here, and it hasn't been very easy for any one of us. But change is the way to go. And if you're not going to change, adapt, you're going to be thrown out of whatever is happening. Means that's for sure. We've learned, especially in COVID. As far as the biggest change that I see is in 3 aspects in our business specifically, or generally as well. Accessibility. So the whole world, we are accessible to the entire world today. It means, which was unheard back then. And digitization has made that all the more easy. As an entrepreneur, it depends on me how I can access and exploit these opportunities for growth. Second, for me, is agility, as I mentioned. Competition and customer needs are ever changing. And I think that at the pace at which they are changing is unprecedented. Means we could not have thought of this 10 years back that they would change so fast. So we have to constantly innovate and pivot. Thirdly, data. So data informed is what I believe in our company more than data driven. And to take care of what's the pulse of the customer, what is the geographies that maximum our orders are coming from, and what's the age group. So these are very broad segments where we can extract the consumer behavior, but of course it can trickle down to absolute bottom scale grassroots levels. So that helps us to identify, create, produce, and offer a product whose success is has a far more percentage of proving rather than it was before. Well, as we talk about upskilling and reskilling our entire organization, on the human resource front, we did a little exercise and we categorized our team into three parts. First were digital natives who grew up with digital tools. Second were digital immigrants who were open to learning and changing. And third were digital refugees who avoided digital tools and they viewed it as unsettling and they found it scary. So when we did this little exercise in the organization, it helped us to know what's the mindset of people, which we'd never done before. But in this process, we came across strengths which were hidden and fears also came across. So we worked on our human resource in that end and we trained them. On the front of the product, we had to really innovate and upskill our chefs because our recipes had to be redefined because they had to maintain a certain quality during the transportation, which was not happening earlier. So we had to adapt to technology where our sweets could remain fresh for a longer period of time. So we invested into map technology and other mediums. We had to set processes for online market, and our retail team had to be retrained for the same. We never had a packaging unit for e-com earlier. We did not make bills in a certain way earlier. We never had logistic teams coming up to pick up and not waiting for more than 2 minutes, and they would go away and we would be running with parcels telling them, please stop, take them. And we didn't want it a cancelled order. So this was all a new process for us. Also, packaging innovation changed drastically for us. An entire inventory for packaging had to be redesigned, which wasn't existing earlier. Overall, if I talk about, it made us more structured and process-oriented. So overall, if I look at a bigger picture, it definitely put a structure around us and forced us to become more organized. So that's the little baby steps we have taken in order to skill. And I'd like to say that digitization has made the world accessible, and that is true for smaller brands too. And customers are today open to trying and buying from new brands. If I talk about food category, as I am in that particular one, then success of Kesar, Slurp, we talk about Nutty Gritties, Tummy Pops, Open Secrets. These are just few brands we are talking about. We know that the difference between big and a small brand has narrowed to become a better spread in the economy, keeping all brands on toes to satisfy the customer demand. So we can't really sit on our seat and say, okay, we'll do something in another 3 months. We've got to keep innovating and changing. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Arora. I think this is a very quick crash course in human resource management, setting them up for e-commerce. Coming to you, Mr. Lele, how is HUL leveraging technology to customize product availability for millions of offline stores? Can you talk about the integration of digital technologies in your working with these retailers and how are you helping them in their digitization journey?
Yeah, thanks for that. Over the last few years, I would say about a decade, we've been working now relentlessly to drive digital first thinking, first within the organization and then with those that we work with. In case of Kiranas, it is solely with the objective of making them future fit and not just survive but thrive in this fast changing world. And we've been doing this through a few initiatives, and I could talk about them. The first would be what I call as intelligent selling. HUL has been a company which pioneered the FMCG analytics that allows us to offer customized product recommendation to each of the millions of store salesman combinations. So 2.1 million outlets that we directly go to with hundreds of thousands of offerings that we have. Depending on the need, season, affordability, locality, and the type of the store, every salesman has a customized list of products that he makes an offer or he makes a call to. Of course, Vinod started his life with us, and he would remember we used to do first call to last call, calling out all the SKUs that we had. It doesn't happen anymore because the intelligent selling allows you to call the most apt SKUs for that moment. And this also helps retailers select those products which are expected to be in demand and how they can augment their income by buying this curated assortment and buy this assortment every week in a manner that optimizes their assortment or their store stock, so to say. The second one that I'm quite proud of is the Shikhar eB2B app that we talk about once in a while. But now we have over 800,000 stores which we have onboarded on this. And if it was a organization which was separately listed, it would have been a few times over in terms of the valuation of it becoming a unicorn. But it is part of HUL, part of our sales organization. And now with the app of Shikhar, every retailer has access to HUL product portfolio 24/7, can order and can get it delivered within the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, this app is driven by deep AI and ML, helping us create a customized shop front, curated offer and assortment for each one of those kiranas. Now, our differentiator is that we support this app with a distributor inclusive model, right? And hence, there is always a regular sales rep who's available to visit that store, complement the work that the app does, and then support those retailers in their journey to digitization. The third, of course, is Kirana Credit. We've been able to use the past trend of sales that we have in every retailer to provide attractive credit facilities for these small stores. It happens through distributors because sometimes the formal credit may not be available due to lack of collaterals or bank accounts or past history which is formalized and so on. But now we have the fintech companies which are also coming on board to offer this limited time credit to all these retailers. Last is, of course, at the POS point of sale. For large stores, we have now a POS solution which is allowing those retailers to be able to offer attractive promotions to their shoppers on HUL portfolio. Now, this allows them to then keep the engagement going, keep the loyalty going for those retailers who come to their stores, and also attract some new ones. Now, you realize that there are reflection of what we do versus what we do along with our customers, which is retailers, and there's a bit of hand-holding needed, and there's a bit of onboarding and training needed, which is what we do through our either salesmen or promoters or people that we deploy. And availability of smartphone, of course, is democratizing technology and access for all of these people. And so those would be some of things that we've been doing in the last few years.
Oh, that's quite a bit of innovation through the supply chain. Thank you for that. Mr. Koshy, ONDC is a really interesting idea. How do you expect ONDC to integrate the aspiration of sellers and marketplaces and at the same time deliver a great experience for customers? And how can ONDC address the varying levels of digital fluency that we have in the MSME ecosystem across India?
You asked a very deep question, and I can talk for the next 1 hour on this topic, but I understand that we don't have that kind of luxury of time. But let me just share with you some of the quick thoughts. One, that I said that in the beginning, that we have tried to create unbundling and democratization as a fundamental structural change in this, which give us interesting possibilities and interesting challenges. One question that you talked about is the consumer experience. And let me just try to say, in the first instance, the very nature of this unbundling and the way it is going to influence the customer experience, both from the people who provide service to the customer as well as the people who enable the sellers to come onto the market. See, in addition to, as we all agree, we have the complete entities like you and Amazon, who's giving complete integrated solution. You have fantastic innovative ideas and systems and process to take care of the sellers and buyers, which is fine. But now we are going to have different segments of people, platforms coming from the seller side and buyer side. But we have to keep one thing in mind. Let's assume that people are coming only in the buyer side. Okay, they have all the compulsion. Their loyalty is to the buyer. They don't have any seller network with them. So if they do not put innovation, if they do not put in processes, if they do not put up ideas to sort of help the buyers and also take up with the seller community if they have any problem, they will lose market share. So in fact, they cannot sit pretty saying that I have the seller, so people have to come. They have to only work based on the service they give. So the model itself provides bigger compulsion. Now look from the seller side. Earlier, let's say a seller platform who also has a large population of buyers and that in certain way can feel confident about. But now if the seller platform is only providing and supporting sellers, their support, and they're depending on this large population of buyers coming from the buyer application, the only way they can prove themselves is that they give good service. They know that if they don't give good service and if there is not good reputation for them, if they are themselves inventory sellers, and if their marketplaces, if they don't make sure that the sellers behave in, if I use the way, and ensure customer service, they will have a challenge. So the first point that I'm saying is the very market model that we're suggesting itself put enormous compulsion on better service from the player side and the side. In addition, and we can't just leave it to the market forces. In the early stages, we have to do many things. So ONDC, we are trying to do a lot of common phrases. I'll just give you some quick highlight on the thing, especially considering the fact that multiple platforms, big and small, are going to come. And they can all, establish themselves only if they have many common facilities which they can call upon, use upon without spending additional effort and money and resources and so forth. One of them that we are trying to work together is to create a common repository, a central repository of our catalogs, because we don't have good standardization there. We are extremely happy to know that we are, some of the large entities like Hindustan Lever and even and so we have already the Hampshire and Dialogue are very, very bullish about this idea and the promise to support us. I mean, I just gave a couple of names, but there are many more who are. But I believe that that is going to be a very, very solid foundation. Second thing that we are trying to look at is, this will also work on a very strong industry-wide taxonomy. That's another project that we worked on, and we expect that to happen in a few months' time. Third thing that we are trying to work out even to help the small and medium, especially when it comes to the payment side, while we know that the banking system will take care of the payment, we are also trying to create as an optional add-on value of a settlement infrastructure. Many banks, stock exchanges, NPC, all of them have come together to sort of shape this agenda. We expect that we'll be able to bring this up probably in the next 6 to 8 months' time. So similarly, and even when quite a large number of people coming together, we have to sort of, while the market model encourages discipline, we also have to provide something that will strengthen the how these the whole community members behave with each other. So we are trying to work on what we call an open data, online dispute resolution mechanism. So I just gave you some splashing of various initiatives as what we're doing, but in summary, if I look at is that one, market model drives better efficiency and better participation and better customer service. And second thing is, as ONDC, we feel that it's our responsibility to provide quite a lot of common facilities, infrastructure thoughts, and tools and tips and common systems, which will all help the various people who come into jump into this area running instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. And so that we believe that they will be able to sort of be at par, not just because of democratization, but also because of the facilities that have been given to work with the people who are already established. This is in brief that I can just jump into this, and we'll, we can of course discuss about this much leisure sometime later.
No, that's very interesting. So basically, you're bringing the market model into like every piece of the ordering supply chain. Then you're trying to bring standardization into various aspects so that they can interact with each other more seamlessly. And then last one, to ensure that the experience either for the buyer or for the seller is maintained. There's some sort of a control or a system which is in place, so that in case anything goes wrong or bad or there's an error, there's a corrective measure for that. So all three things are part of the ONDC plan. Thank you for that. We are now coming to the last few minutes of this session, but I want to put one question, the same question to all of you for your concluding remarks. What's your vision for the next 5 to 10 years? How do you see digitization bring about a change in the retail sector, especially for small retailers across India? And what role do you see them playing in accelerating India's digital economy? Mr. Nambiar, I'd request you to go first, then Mr. Lele followed by Anil, and then Mr. Arora, and finally to Mr. Koshy for final remarks.
Thank you, Vivek. I think the first is, I rarely classify retail as small or big, right? I think retail is retail. I truly believe that the next 5 to 10 years, Indian retail is going to come of age like never before, right? And where is technology? I think technology is going to touch every aspect of a retailer, right? It's going to touch the supply chain. It's going to touch very evolved in terms of payment systems. It's going to give much easier credit. And whether you're a small retailer or a large retailer, access to cheap credit is a very important part of growing a business, right? And I think this is, we're seeing a phase of opening up of credit, but I think credit access is going to change. And I'd like to say the concept of walled gardens is going to change as we go forward, right? And I think Koshy and setting up a ONDC, UPI has shown us that opening systems actually dramatically changes the way people consume goods and services. So I think this is all going to be so good in the next few years. One area which I think is really untapped and going to change is also B2B. A lot of my time is spent B2C, but I think B2B is where technology has not yet sort of taken off. And I think that, Kedar spoke about it with Shikhar. And I think there will be multiple Shikhar opportunities in this country where things will get upstream. So it's going to be a fantastic decade ahead. And I'm so glad to be part of it. And I hope we contribute in some way.
Thank you. Anil.
As we conclude this discussion, some of the terms that I was picking up, of course, are walled garden and the momentum of resilient neighborhood kirana, and the fact that when the disruption of technology was happening, people were thinking that you could wish away the retailer or you could wish away the kirana or neighborhood retailer. Hasn't happened, and it won't happen, because we have been a country of shopkeepers. And we have been a country of people who use frugal innovation to be able to adapt technology quickly, but also grow with it. Now, I would end up repeating what Vinod just said, but it's true that the tech adoption rate is going to grow further in the next few years or past. And when we look back, we would actually be thanking COVID for accelerating that. So while the loss of life was painful, but the acceleration of adoption of technology has been a boon for everyone. Otherwise, it would have been really, really painful. And that tech adoption will make sure that not just the smartphone to access what they want, but the smartphone to supply to their consumers, their shoppers, transact with them, do customer relationship management on the fly would become very, very obvious and very, very acceptable to them. So that's one. Second is, from availability of cheap credit, I am saying formalization of business. Every month, all of us get delighted and positively surprised when we see the GST collections, right? And there's also SBI report which talks about the parallel economy size actually going down. Traders, retailers, business community has understood that it's better to adopt the GST regime, yeah, and formalization of business than keeping a separate khata book. As you do that, formalization of business will allow smaller retailers also to have access to capital. And instead of buying what they could afford, they would start buying what they can sell. And that's a big change that would come in their lives. And last is, of course, I do believe there's some value migration that's taking place. So wherever you have the high density of demand in urban spaces, a Q-commerce, e-commerce, last mile integrated is making a shift. But with urbanization happening in a large number of cities, with rural consumption growing and adoption of technology, I do believe that there is life for retailers in the future, and we would see the expansion happening around us. So I'm quite positively hopeful about the times ahead, and I look forward to participating in this with enough amount of excitement and positive motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anil ji, to you.
Well, I mean, the colleagues on the panel have very well articulated the impact in terms of the use of digital technology on businesses. I would rather like to comment upon the qualitative impact that is going to have. Like, for example, formalization of businesses, then businesses will get more structured and it would be more process driven. All those things put together would dramatically change the way they consume a lot of services. And suddenly, whether it is financial services, whether it is non-financial services and consulting, scaling up and all those issues, I think it's very exciting time, because if you look at it, hardly 10% of MSMEs have access to institutional funds. With greater formalization and process-driven systems in place, you'll have a large number of financial service providers coming in and filling the gaps that currently exist through the institutional funding systems. Similarly, in terms of services also, the way we consume services, and through SaaS type of models coming in the picture, because their processes are more structured and can say they are more formalized. So I would say there would be dramatic change in their efficiency, in their scaling up ability to employ more people. So I think overall this is going to have a very benign impact and very widespread impact on MSMEs in general.
All right. Thank you, Anil. You also touched upon some policy framework changes which we should look at, especially for small sellers with respect to the online, offline participation in e-commerce and the GST piece. I hope some of those things are also work in progress, which will really enable a lot of the MSMEs to participate in e-commerce. Next to you, Divya.
Well, seeing some data, Indian e-commerce market is expected to reach $200 billion by 2027. And currently, with 800 million smartphones users that India supports, I think the possibilities are just for growth are just immaculate. Is beyond what probably my mind can at this moment, encapture. Whether it's retailer at a micro, small, medium, or a giant level, will have to revisit and restructure business plans more often than ever to play a vital role in this transformation process. I was reading about FISMEs, the policy that they're coming up for the non-collateral loans. That it's a futuristic plan, and it was so beautiful and lucrative. As a micro, retailer, I face the challenge of funds very frequently, and also the ONDC platform that's being piloted in few cities currently in India. As a seller, I am so excited to be on that in future, giving the retailer a fair, ecosystem, a very fair ecosystem to sell and to buy both. So definitely the age ahead looks like a golden age. It looks like an age where the disparities that were existing will definitely, be reduced. We would be more trained in terms of being digitized, and we'll be more comfortable using technology than we were before. As At our own ground levels or at Kesar, we believe that digital transformation is more about people than technology. We believe that as we march forward, digital transformation, it must be able to ignite change in employee's heart as to why he's doing a certain thing, in his mind, in his head, as to why and how they see their work, and also in his hands as to how they're going to do their work. So, at all the three levels, this change must be incorporated. It is no wonder leaders and employees often feel overwhelmed. I have felt overwhelmed with this drastic pace of changing technology and adaptation required every individual collectively in the digital age. As a leader, I must be empathetic about this, about how employees goes through the stress process as they grapple with this whole process completely. Uh, we certainly look at e-commerce as a highly competitive channel for our future growth. Amazon has provided us with opportunities which we couldn't have ever imagined. During the COVID times, we were able to start products within few months, over 700 cities. This kind of reach, I do not know how we could have done without using this technology. And this opened a completely new vertical for our business. We understood that there's no dearth of a customer anymore. Means the whole world could become our client. So I can only end by saying that as a company's vision of making Indian sweets omnipresent, these times seem to be the best that we could have imagined. Thank you so much.
I think it's up to Koshy, you to say your closing words.
Sure. So, I mean, it's been really heartening to hear the diverse point of view coming from, the large enterprise like HUL to a very successful business like Kesar and so on and so forth. So the way I'm looking at it is that I believe that one, the momentum that we have seen in this digital commerce is going to really accelerate with something like the idea of an ONDC, and our hope and our dream that in the next 4 or 5 years time, we will have digital commerce present in every pin codes. When I say pin codes, it's a little broad, and I believe that it will be there in all the major, all at least 75% even at the village level. We have somebody like CSC who is also already committed and willing to participate with us. We believe that reach is something that we will definitely be make it possible. In addition, that we believe some very interesting people, enterprise entities also jumping into the fray who are hitherto not there. I'm just giving some example. For example, think like a telco and think like a bank who have a large population of clients, but they're not in e-commerce because they don't know how to handle the sellers. Now, in an open network, they can bring all their clients and all their people and say that I can offer you e-commerce. And look at the possibilities that is opening. And earlier, some of you even suggested, when you have such large amount of digital transaction, which will, it will also drive a possible credit revolution in credit for working capital, which is not asset-based, but rather flow-based. And all these things we expect will also drive towards substantial increase in penetration, one on the from current 7 to 8% to maybe 40%, and more importantly from the sellers at big and small MSMEs or the big one, seeing that practically or at least 80-90% of them having a digital presence with confidence, because the kind of tools and facilities and tips and diverse kind of platforms and innovations coming from startup all helping. I mean, that's a kind of vision and fission that we feel that will sort of transform our digital commerce in the coming years. And we are very excited to be a part of the show.
So with that, we come to the end of this very engaging conversation. I would like to thank the speakers here for joining us today. I would also like to thank all the audience who have joined us here for this session on day 1 of Smbhav 2022. Stay tuned, lots more coming our way. Thank you, and once again, have a good day.